Alright, today we're going to be working on this 93 YJ. It has a leak around the transfer case. We're going to go ahead, get underneath the vehicle, and remove the transfer case from the back of the transmission, pulling the transfer case apart and resealing all the parts on the transfer case. It seems to have a leak around where all the RTV gaskets are. So we're going to get in there and replace all the RTV silicone and get it fixed up. And we're here underneath the Jeep. We're going to go ahead and place a jack stand underneath the transmission, and that's going to hold the engine up while we go ahead and lower the skid plate that's covering the actual transfer case. That allows us to get to the, they got some bolts that bolt in right around the back side of the transmission, and that'll give us some room. Before we actually go ahead and drop the skid plate, we're going to remove the drive shaft. I'm going to take these little buckles off right here. This is on the back drive shaft. So we're going to remove those little clips, and at that point, you should be able to slide the shaft toward the rear, pulling off the splines of the transfer case. Alright, we went ahead and disconnected the clips there with the 8mm wrench. We're going to go ahead and slide the shaft out. So make sure they got some oil coming out the back of the transfer case. We just want to be sure that we got a little pan in place. We don't get oil all over the place. At this point, we're going to go ahead and drain the transfer case. There's a plug right back here on the back of it. We're going to go ahead and pop that plug out, drain all the oil out. Okay, we're going to go ahead and pull the plug out the bottom of the transfer case, and all the oil should drain out here into the oil pan. We went ahead and put the jack on the back of the transfer case just so we can slowly lower the plate in the transmission down to the jack stand, give us a little bit more control in the situation. I got the bolts removed here, the three-quarter head bolts removed from the skid plate. I'll remove the ones on the other side, and that way, at that point, we can lower with the jack down to the jack stand. Okay, we got the bolts from the outside of the skid plate removed. At this point, we're going to go in and remove here. I don't know if you can see in the center of the skid plate, there's a transmission mount, and right in this area here, there's two bolts. Remove. And that'll be the last part. Take the skid plate off. Plate off here. Now we're going to go ahead and remove the front drive shaft. We have some more of those 8mm head bolts right here. Take those clips off. And then we also have some more on the front differential. We're going to remove those. We got to get the drive shaft off. Okay, what we went ahead and did here was we disconnected the drive shaft here, but we left it connected in the front. We just slid it forward a little bit, put a pry bar right in this area, kind of prying the drive shaft forward a little bit, and then we just went ahead and bungee corded it to the frame here, just allowing it to get out of our way. At this point, we're going to go ahead and disconnect the transfer case from the transmission. We disconnect a couple, got your shifter shaft right here that we need to disconnect, and then there's some bolts. I believe there's 6 all the way around. We're going to disconnect these 6 bolts on the transfer case, just kind of letting you get a look of where we're at here. Your transfer case here, and you disconnect right here in this area on these bolts. So this time I'm going to go ahead and start removing those. Okay, you can see on the bracket here, I went ahead and just put my wrench right here in that area on the shifter bracket and just popped it right out. No big problem, just took a second. Probably gonna have to remove this skid plate and the little transmission mount here. It's kind of in the way, so we can get to all these bolts back here to remove the transfer. We went ahead and we removed the mount there, got it out of our way. Now we're pulling off the plugs off the top of the transfer case. I believe there's 2 of them.
Yeah, the plug.
2 plugs. Got one here one there. I'm over on the driver's side right now. Make sure you get those plugs pulled out. You can see it right there. Okay. Okay, we just about got the bolts removed from the transfer case to the transmission. We went ahead and put our jack right here. We're hoping maybe we can just slide the jack back, unstabbing the transfer case from the transmission. Just got one more bolt left on the other side. There was 6 all the way around, and pretty tight. Not very easy to get to. A little patience. Okay, we went ahead and unstabbed it. It was just pretty easy to do with just 2 people. We were able to kind of just manhandle it down. We did forget to remove the breather line, so that kind of put us in a bind getting it down, but it wasn't that hard. We just kind of popped it off while we was holding it up. So we got the transfer case off now. We're gonna go ahead and pull it up on the bench and start disassembling it and resiliconing it. The transfer case here on the table took us about an hour to get it out, and that's making this video during it. Really wasn't hard at all. See, this is part that stabs into your transmission here. That's for your front drive shaft, and that's where the rear drive shaft went in. It apparently has a leak coming from all the seals here where the case comes together. You can see all the RTV right there. There's 1, 2, 3 spots we're gonna break and have to re-silicone. It looks like some oil around that little plug. Do a little research, see what that is exactly. I don't know if the oil is just splashing back to it, and coming from this seal here, or that thing's actually leaking itself. Okay, we got the transfer case up here on the table on this 93 YJ. Apparently we got a leak here. I believe it's here in the bottom part of the transfer case. We went ahead and cleaned it all up after we pulled it out. There might be a leak here on this sensor. We're going to pull that out. I believe there's an O-ring behind that. We're going to have to go ahead and pop this off first. I'm going to go ahead and pry that out, and I'm going to pop this off and then pop this part of the case off. And I believe in here, once we pop that top part off, there's going to be a snap ring that we're going to have to pop open. So we'll see once we go ahead and pull this first part off. And I think there's a couple pry points, if I look a little closer, that we can get a pry bar and start popping these pieces off as we go along. Okay, we went ahead and removed these bolts here. On the first part of the housing, just tapped it with a rubber mallet, just pops right off. Next we're going to go in and we are going to remove this clip here. It's not a standard snap ring. There's no holes or anything to grab it to. We're trying to take some snap ring pliers to kind of pop it open and pop it loose, and then at that point we should be able to remove this housing with the bearing. Okay, went ahead and took some snap ring pliers, just kind of went on the inside of it there, and we got the pop loose. Now we're just trying to get it up off the shaft here. We went ahead and got the ring off. It was really tough. We got it popped up around the splines, slid it up off of there, and went ahead and put the pry bar right here and popped that loose, and now we're going to pull it off. We went ahead and got it off. It was a little snug, but we slid it off. Wasn't too bad. Sensor rolled right up off of there. No damage, no problem. Now we'll go ahead and remove this part here. I think there's a little hole somewhere. It's going to have a hose we need to disconnect. See if I can get in there and find it. We went ahead and got the pump off here. You can see the little oil hose right here. You gotta make sure you don't break that when you're getting it off. You kind of just pry up on the pump a little bit. You see here, it'll kind of just slide back, and you just slide that up off of there. You can see the chain. Again, just be real careful with this here. That's for your fluid and stuff to your pump. Alright, so we got that part off there. Now we're going to go ahead and start removing these bolts here around the case and separate that. And backed all these bolts out. We get to this one though. It's got a special head on it. But it seems that this 12-point 10mm wrench fits on there. So I'm going to have to go to remove that with that. Okay, we went ahead and got those bolts all the way out. I'm going to go ahead. Looks like they provide you with some little pry points here. Got one there. Let's see. I'm sure there's another one somewhere. There it is. Right there. I'm going to go ahead and pry that apart and pull that case off. Okay, we went ahead and separated it. Just want to show, kind of caught us off guard here a little bit, but you have your suction line here and your screen. This is in the cover itself. You can see it kind of mounts down in here. That's where it locks in. And then here on the other side, you have another little compartment. And there's a magnet. That magnet goes down in here, like that. Just so you don't get caught off guard. That's a good idea. Go ahead and clean that up real good. Get all the shavings off of that. Kind of see how it goes there. Okay, we got our surfaces all clean here. Took a little bit of scraper, scraped that up, some carburetor clean, a little wire brush. Clean it up real good so you get your surface and get a nice seal on your surface there. So we get that all back to clean, and we're about to start laying our bead. We're going to be using Ulster Gray. This was highly recommended to us. I've actually used it on my TJ on the differential covers, and on my rear main seal also. So it worked out great for me. And so we're going to use that here on the transfer case. Okay, we got our gray RTV here in place. Got it tubed all the way around, all the bolts. Here's the covers to go back in. We have here the oil pump tube and the filter. You want to make sure you get that back down in place. Kind of just slides in there. When we go to put it on, we're going to hold it back right here in this area when we slide it on so it doesn't fall out of place. And make sure that you have your magnet back in place here. Alright. That's it. At this point, we're going to start running our bolts in now. Okay, we went ahead and put our pump in. Just want to make sure you get that little line right in there. Hook back up to your pump. That's where it's going to come from your filter through your line. Your pump's going to suck it up and lubricate everything. Now we're going to go ahead and torque the transfer case back together. We're going to torque it here to 30 pounds. And we torque every one of the bolts. Going to kind of do a little star pattern and torque everything properly all the way around. Alright, we got these bolts here torqued up. We torqued them to 30 foot-pounds. Now we're going to go ahead and not lubricate, but seal the neck surface. Make sure, again, you want to make sure everything is nice and clean. I'm going to run that seal and be able to put it on our next housing here. This next housing is a piece with the bearing. Now that bearing kind of actually slid out on us a little bit. We kind of tapped it back in place with a rubber mallet. And as soon as we get that, we're going to get this mounted on there too and crank it down 30 foot-pounds. Going to slide that cover on now. Now be careful, you have this sensor here. It's got that plastic gear. We're going to make sure that kind of rolls down in place, gets in the proper position. Got to kind of work it down slowly. It should work itself in place. go. Now we're going to run our bolts and torque it down to 30 foot-pounds. Went ahead and torque these bolts up to 30 also. This time we're going to go ahead and put our clip back on. Back on the shaft. Get that clip to hold. Down in here, it's got a little groove where it goes. And we'll get in there and put that back on. Make sure, I didn't mention earlier, we also did put a little bit of blue Loctite on all the threads. On the bottom of the case, they have the detent plug here. So just got a spring on the inside. We pulled that out. The O-ring was completely gone. We changed the O-ring out on that. We just pulled an O-ring out of our stock here and replaced that. Should be good to go though. Okay, I was able to use some pliers to kind of pry it open. Some pliers, snap ring pliers, kind of pried it open, slid it over the spline, tapped it down. Now we're going to go ahead and make sure we get it down in that groove in there. We're going to make sure you get it nice and clamped in that groove. We might have to pull up on the shaft just a little bit to get it to that groove. Okay, we went ahead and set our last piece on top. Now this one has 3 mounted pieces, and it only lines up one way. So we're going to make sure you get that lined up before you set it down. You get the 3 bolt holes to line up pretty good. And now we'll go ahead and run our bolts in there with a little blue Loctite. We're using Loctite 242. And I'm going to tighten that down to 30 also. Alright, we got our last piece mounted on here. We got it all torqued down. The only thing we have left to do is we couldn't find a gasket here for the transfer case to the transmission. So I think it looks like this one here might have been homemade itself. So we bought us a little bit of gasket material, and we're going to go ahead and make us a gasket for that, and then we're going to go ahead and mount it back in. This is going to be the end of the video. Thank you for watching. You can see some of my other videos on my YouTube page. This is Vincent's Jeep here. You can say bye, Vincent, and bye. Thanks for watching.